Fantastic, man. I'm looking forward to just learning more and just once again be reminded of those inspirational women throughout the course of Women's Month. It's
Absolutely.
going to be amazing.
And particularly from this lady.
Absolutely. Let's introduce you, parent coach Laura Markovitz. She's here this morning. Now, separating as a couple, it can be a very, very hard thing to do, especially if there is a child involved. But the question is, can it be possible to co-parent in a way that is still beneficial for that child involved? And this is what we're talking about this morning. We're talking about co-parenting and how to go about it successfully. Laura, thank you very much for joining us. Lovely to have you.
Good to be here.
Yeah, and
Thank
here's
you.
to hoping that the answer to Ewan's question is a resounding yes, it is possible. But let's quickly start off with what does healthy co-parenting look like?
Yeah, well, I think you've got to think, well, what are we talking about when
Yes.
we're talking about co-parenting? So first of all, it's when two parents separate and you are changing the nuclear structure that was existing and you're going into something different. And obviously it's a really hard, awful process to go through. It's never a simple decision. It often is a really emotional, heartfelt decision to make. And now we've got to navigate what happens because two parents are divorcing, but you're not divorcing the kids. So we've got to go, well, what happens now? And co-parenting is the structure that you then implement post-divorce and separation. And it can look very different in different families. So depending on the setup, it's usually governed by a parenting plan, and that will set up how things are navigated between the homes, how much time is spent with each parent, how to manage things like holidays, birthdays, how to navigate those sorts of things. Yeah. And of course, as you say, there can be kind of good or bad co-parenting.
So let's talk about that, because how can good co-parenting be beneficial for a child? Because obviously it's not the ideal situation. Like looking at a picture like that, you know, you have your mom and dad, they're always together, they're there, and that's the example that you as a kid then see. But obviously, in some certain situations, just it cannot be like that. So can it still be a good thing? How does it work then? Yeah. If it's a good thing, if you're looking from a positive side.
So if it's being handled in a way that is positive, it can have really good holding, containing aspects for kids. Kids who are co-parented in a positive way generally feel more contained, they feel less torn between their two parents. They're able to actually carry on being kids and not have to handle, be managing the adult parent stuff. They can carry on kind of being kids and not holding all the stress that is going on for their parents. So if it's being managed well, we can let kids be kids and allow them to feel more contained and more stable in spite of the big changes that have happened in their lives.
Yeah. So if I just take it a step back, you spoke about a parenting plan as the ground basis of a good and healthy co-parenting relationship. So where does this parenting plan come from? How does one draw it up? Who's involved in deciding what is in it and what should be in it?
So that can differ. So sometimes it's, well, what I would recommend is generally going, if you are struggling to come to this decision on your own, to involve a mediator, somebody who can actually, a third party, who can help you with these difficult decisions. Because often with a parenting plan, there's so much encumbered big decisions in terms of finances, who has the kids when, all those sorts of things. So you can have a mediator involved, or where things become more contentious and people aren't able to handle things through a mediator, then you do need to go through a lawyer who can help you draw up something that will then get made an order of the court, which is your parenting plan.
And I think that at the end of the day, doesn't matter what happens between mom and dad, there needs to be that mutual understanding, even in the co-parenting situation, you know, to make it, because it really is all about the child at the end of the day. And that's there needs to be that respect, I think, and that's what you need to reach at the end of the day. Sure.
Absolutely.
Sure.
All right, Laura, we're going to ask you to stay with us for a little bit longer, because when we come back, we're going to start talking about the tips that you have to share with us about good co-parenting, and that is our topic, and a very, very important one at the end of the day, just like you said, that it is about the benefit of the child and how to best ensure that they have a future in which they are intact people in life, right?
Absolutely, absolutely, absolutely vital.
It's my feel-good breakfast show.
We're hanging out with certified parenting coach Laura Markovitz, and we're talking about the difficulties of co-parenting and how to do it right. And we left the conversation last time wanting to hear some tips from Laura about what to do when you want to co-parent to the best of your ability to benefit the child. So what tips can you share with us?
Yeah, so I'd say first of all, you've got to manage yourself. You've got to make sure that you've actually got an adult outlet for for the emotions that you're experiencing because it's hard, so that it's not left to the kids to be managing that. So first of all, to make sure that you as the adult have that kind of support. And then for the kids, to make sure that you're employing empathy for them. So things like, and it's very hard, so I don't sugarcoat this for a second, because you're dealing with somebody that you're feeling very angry and might have bitterness and resentment for and all of that. But to help the kids manage it is to remember to be empathic for them as well. So that they're able to say, I'm missing dad, or I'm missing mom, and that you're able to hold that for them. And then a big thing to think about is helping them to manage the transitions. So the moving from mom's house to dad's house and back again, and how that actually goes on in practice. So, you know, that actual handover period, to remember to manage yourself, that it doesn't become so fraught, that the kids are having to hold all the stuff when they're moving between mom and dad. And things, very practical things like clothes and your special things. Kids generally are not known for their huge organizational skills. So to remember that, and now they've got this massive change and these big challenges of moving between homes. So to try and simplify that, to try and help them think through how to move things from one home to the other so that they're not feeling completely uncontained and that things feel literally all over the place. So to really help them think through those sorts of things and how to manage them.
Yeah, look, there's a lot, I think, to consider with regards to this type of situation, but I think at the core, it really is what you said earlier on, all about the child and making that child feel as comfortable and as loved as possible. What are some of the taboos to co-parenting? I mean, what does bad co-parenting look like?
Yeah, so bad co-parenting really is using that space to badmouth your spouse, to use it to actually try and turn your kids against each other, to use them as that sort of stomping ground. Yeah, exactly, and use it in a vengeful way. Also to use them to get messages between the parents. So a big thing to remember is how you're communicating, and to find a way, if communicating is, and generally if you're separating and getting divorced, communication is probably something you are struggling with, but now you still have to parent together. So to find a way that you are able to communicate. For some, face-to-face communication might be absolutely explosive. For others, emails and texts might be a crazy way to communicate. So to really find the way that's going to be the best, most succinct way so that you can hold kids and that you're not making this the most difficult thing for them to go through.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much for us to discuss, and of course you can go to coachparents.coza to find more information. I want to ask about co-parenting a stepchild and how the dynamic might differ there, because you're coming into an environment where that is not necessarily your child, although you're trying to form a nucleus where you are part of the family of this child, yet there is an external influence.
So absolutely, and I think that's a topic in and of itself, because having to deal with blended families is a reality, because not only are you now having to co-parent between two families, you've got new kids on the block, and how to manage the dynamics. So suffice it to say that it's a difficult relationship, and to really think through and tread through the steps carefully. You know, not to, my biggest advice around it would be find ways to connect as with your step kids, and not in a way that you're trying too hard and too crazily, but in a gentle way so that you can build a relationship with them.
And before we go, how important is it for the natural parent to connect with the step-parent in order to make sure that there's harmony there so that there's no unnecessary strife caused?
So, you know, I'd say there's no textbook, you know, on the perfect situation in terms of going post-divorce. Every family is different. And some families are able to do just that and have a healthy relationship with their ex and are able to communicate, and that's great. And obviously that's sort of first prize stuff. But sometimes that's not possible, and sometimes we cannot do that. So it's really assessing the family as they go and finding ways that even if it is a high conflict situation, that high conflict stuff stays with the parents and not with the kids.
That's the most
And
important.
I mean, if you come from a point of respect and communication and just management, I think then you should be fine, just in terms of how I think of it. But it is a complicated subject. We would love to know if you have any short thoughts that may be words of wisdom that you can share with some of our our viewers this morning, please do so on our Facebook and social media pages using that hashtag Expresso Show.
Thank you, Laura.